So I believe success is a series of action that you do every single day, because I don't think success is really an achievement. It's more of like the process to getting there. It's like a journey, right? And so for someone who wants to break their limiting belief is really just look back at where you were to see where you're gonna go forward. But if you're never gonna look back at your past to see, okay, these things are actually holding me back, so you have to reflect. So reflection is a very, very important thing.
Hi, welcome back to You Multicultural Channel, to the Newcomer Network. And today at the Immigrant Stories, I'm having Hani Mehari. And we are going to be learning a little bit of his journey. And thank you, Hani. How are you?
No, I appreciate it, Jocelyn. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here because I love listening to stories, and especially those stories that bring inspiration to us as immigrants. And I would like you to introduce yourself and tell our audience a little bit about you.
Yeah, no, of course. So, like I said, my name is Hani Mahari. I'm the founder of Hani Mobile, which is a cell phone business. We specialize buying and selling and wholesaling devices. And overall, I'm a lifelong learner. I love, entrepreneurship. I also love supporting entrepreneurs, and I'm an advocate for people who want to start their own business. And I'm really passionate about community as well too, as I know you are as well. So yeah, it just ties back all together to people. I think I'm in the people business. That's kind of where I really like to break it down as, and so it's a pleasure to be here.
And Hani is doing amazing things in the community. But before, I would like us to share a little bit about the beginnings. How old were you when you arrived to Canada?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Jocelyn. I came to Canada when I was about 11 years old. As an immigrant, I was born in Sudan. And my background is Eritrean originally. So then we moved right here. Came to Canada with a single parent mom. Moved to 95 Ellen Street, which is Aircom. It's like a government housing essentially. So, we don't have a lot of money when you're coming to Canada. So trying to transition and figure out what we're going to do. And so my mom was like, you need to get education. We need to find a way. So I spent my whole life essentially just trying to help her out. Yeah, came here when I was 11 and then moved into Aircom. And there's a lot of things you see, especially being from Eritrea, and when you come into a space where now you're meeting people from Nigeria, Ghana, Africa, you see a lot of things, right? So it's not your regular upbringing, so-called, right? Because now you're in this environment. People are either they're doing things that they don't really make sense because they don't have a lot of money, so they get into gangs, they get into violence. So for me, how I stayed out of that environment, I used to play basketball growing up. So I'm a big believer in sports. So by the time I was 11 years old until about probably 18, like throughout my whole high school career, I played basketball growing up. So that's kind of my transition really was into, growing up in the inner city, but then it's like, how do you make it out, right? So picked basketball early on, and especially as an immigrant, with a single parent mom. So now, like, especially her by herself, coming here with my sister, it's like, we don't really have any other ways. So I had to go help her out when I was about 14 and 15. I really learned a lot about working hard because she was teaching me a lot of that. She's like, hey, there's nobody's gonna help me, so you gotta go and come to work with me. So I started working. We had cleaning jobs. I was do whatever I can to just provide and help her out. So a lot of my upbringing was just trying to figure out, Winnipeg. But at those times, though, in 2009, when I moved here, it was very rough. Winnipeg has transitioned over the last, I probably say 10 years, but there were those times it was crazy times, and I think a lot has changed. I think we're on a smoother ride up now, but I think during those times it wasn't easy as so it is probably say the last 5 years. But I think things always change, and I think you have to adapt to the market and overall what's happening. So it's kind of a little bit of my journey, and now I'm just thankful to kind of be here and still continue doing what we're doing.
Yeah, and you mentioned something. Your mom wanted you to go to school to study, and usually people think go to school and then get a job.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
think something happened there.
Yeah, exactly. So I think what happened was, like I said, I was playing basketball growing up. So she wanted me to essentially not pursue basketball because basketball was not really paying me no money, right? So it's like I would just be up all night trying to figure out how I could improve, get my game better. But it's like, either we're gonna make it from school or either we're gonna make it in basketball. So as I transitioned through my high school career, I was good enough to actually get a scholarship to play in Ontario for a little bit. But as you go on to this journey, yeah, there's a lot of doubts in between those. And so by the time I was like 15, I really took the game really serious. I'm like, okay, I'm more, because I was a little bit tall. So I was about 6'2" or 6'3" by that time. So most kids are not that tall at that age, right? So it's like everybody's looking at me like, do you play what you play basketball? So when you're a tall guy, everybody assumes you play sports, right? So now you have a really you have to make something happen, right? So I picked basketball, and I wasn't the smartest kid academically. So I was getting, so I was one of
I
those
know
kids.
why.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm the same.
yeah. I wasn't the smartest kid. So my mom was like, if you're not getting good grades, then why are you playing basketball? But it's like I was going to school just to play basketball. Essentially, it's like this is my escape route. Either I'm gonna go help her in my during my daytime, but it's like I'm gonna spend all I can, because at the end of the day, anything in life, it comes down to practice. If you put in enough work to get into whatever you want, you're gonna become successful. So I think when you're a kid, you're trying to navigate so many different things. You're trying to figure out what makes sense for you. So that's what I spent doing a lot of my youth. And but we really just started working. And then by the time I was like 15, I actually started entrepreneurship a little bit.
That's
So
why I wanted to interrupt. I wanted to interrupt you
yeah,
because
yeah,
when you say I was not the best at school,
yeah,
it's because we have that entrepreneurial heart, and that's we are good, but our strengths are in different areas.
yeah, exactly. So I think when you're a kid, you have. When I was younger, I always felt there was a curiosity mindset. I always thought like, okay, like we have, let's say when I was a kid, I used to buy a lot of things. So I would buy video games, I would buy shoes. Of course, as my mom, she was making a little bit of money. She was essentially like, hey, like I'll just buy you this, I'll buy you this, because you're helping me out, right? Because I was always with her as well too. So she felt like, oh, he's a good kid. Like why would he? So she would buy me different things because we had a little bit of money. So I would buy shoes, I would buy video games, because I felt like if I wasn't spending time with my friends, I would take that money and buy it into games, and I would just spend all days playing the game. But one day I was like, you know what? I have so many games, I have so many shoes. Like, why don't I try to resell these things? I felt like, how can we make money? Because my mom needs help anyways. So one day I went to school. I realized I had this one friend of mine who was like a Chinese guy. At the time, he was telling me about like, hey, I saw him wearing like a brand new Gucci shoes all the time. I'm like, where are you buying these shoes from? He's like, oh, there's this website called Alibaba. I would buy it from there and I would ship them over here. So at that time, Chinese people, they're very advanced. There's like I don't know what it is. They're very smart people. So I always felt like I gotta be around the smart people, right? So I'm like, so he's giving me pointers. You should do this. I'm like, okay, let me see if I could do this. So I would essentially start buying stuff and we bring them over here. At that time, like I said, I was using my mom's credit card, which is not a good advice to do, but so I would take her card and I would start buying stuff. And crazy enough, I was making like $3,000, $2,000 in high school, just by bringing stuff over here and selling it to people locally. And I felt like, this was like, yo, this is a scam, because I felt like at that age, like, why e-transfers are coming in, so you feel like, oh, this feels like illegal. I'm taking people's money, right? Right? When you're a kid, it's like, why am I even doing this? But a lot of my entrepreneurship, like I didn't even know I was doing entrepreneurship, but that's where it started really. And as I look back now, especially now, like running a business, which is a cell phone business, I specialize in like buying electronics and reselling them. A lot of the things that I was doing, I was a kid, really just transferred to I got older. So if you study your patterns, right? I think life is all about studying your past experiences, because where you are right now, it didn't just happen, right? It's the past experiences of what you've been through. So the things that you go through when you're a kid, they tend to manifest now, right? But if you don't look back at your patterns, then you won't really know, right? So I think it's important to reflect. And a lot of time we don't really take the time to actually reflect and look at where we are. So when I decided to get into business, I realized, okay, I was looking back at where I was when I was younger, and then I just got into this, like, buying stuff online and reselling them. I'm like, okay, maybe this is something that I actually want to do. Maybe this is my passion, right? So you don't really know until you really look back. Maybe sometimes you might have to look at yourself in the mirror as well too, to really reflect. So, but there's so much programming that you also have to work on, because there's so much limiting beliefs. Like I was saying earlier, my mom was saying, go to school, get an education,
Yeah.
right? It's easy to said and done to do that, but it's like when I was already making that much money, I never actually told her I was making money, because it's felt like you're using my car, you're doing this, like it's just, there's so much like oh, why would you do this, right? It won't make sense. Like we're so used to, like, especially when you look at the industrial age and the way we grew up like 10, 20 years ago, people are used to working hard, right? Like work hard to earn money, right? People don't really work smart to get money, right? So it's like she was so accustomed to doing that, especially when you're an immigrant, because you're working every single day, you're trying to make money. All you know is how to trade your time for money. It's like you don't really know different ways to make money. So I think the things that you learn as a kid, it transforms to what you're doing And there's a great story of Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is this big, a billionaire investor. People don't know is if you look at if like wealthy individuals, like because I study, so as I went to entrepreneurship, I started studying people who were successful. I was trying to see what made them successful. So if you look at Warren Buffett today, he's worth billions of dollars. But if you look back when he was 10, 11 years old, he used to actually sell newspaper and candy. So that's how he started doing entrepreneurship, right? So he would get a bunch of newspaper and then he would look at essentially he would buy them for 10 and he was selling for 20, right? So essentially he was already becoming an entrepreneur because he used to buy stuff and resell them on the open market, right? But then as he started transitioning a little bit more, he became an investor, right? He started looking at stocks because then he realized that he got a mentor, which is Benjamin Graham. So I started really studying people who were successful to see what made them different. But a lot of times it's just they had patterns. They all were entrepreneurs because in order to become an entrepreneur and to be an investor, there's so much similarities, right? Because if
Yeah.
you can buy stocks and you can buy, service, you can buy products, it's just so much, but you have to learn the market, the fundamentals of what makes a stock good, right? What's different between this? How can you get this product to become a good product, right? So it's always about that niche, supply and demand. So I think when you're studying the markets and when you're looking at what you're currently doing right now, nothing is new. Nothing is new under the sun. There's always someone who's already created what you've been able to do. So it's about how can you emulate what you're doing and just be able to add it into your own
Yeah.
context.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the thing for me. I'm always studying principles and studying history to look at what's going to happen next. So yeah, so I'm not like the smartest guy. I just study people who are smarter than me and try to see what made them different, and then try to emulate that.
And
Oh,
then,
that made sense a little bit.
and then you started with selling those shoes, and then the cell phones.
Exactly.
But then you transitioned into
Real.
houses,
Yes. Yes.
real estate.
Yeah.
You mentioned something, the limiting beliefs and the people around you. What do you think it's something that stops people to do certain things based on their surrounding, people around us?
Yeah. I think a lot of it comes down to limitations that were put onto you. So I don't know, for me, like I was telling you, when I was 15, 16, when I was not getting good grades, I would go into these teacher press conferences and I would sit there with my teacher and she was telling me like, oh, this kid he's not getting good grades, he's failing in math, he's failing in this and that and that. So then my mom was like, what are you doing right now? Like you're not, like I thought you were going to school. I thought like I want you to graduate. I want you. So she's like telling me like like you're making so many mistakes. Like we came here to provide. We came here to do something. So teachers were already telling me like you're gonna fail. He's not gonna graduate high school. So then when I went home and I started reflecting, I'm like, I don't even want to be around people anymore. So I was an introvert my whole life. So when I got when those things were happening to me, I realized like, why is this actually happening to me? So there's so much limiting beliefs that you don't even know that actually exist if you just look back at your old patterns, right? So I think it's if you study what you've been through, like, for me, so I look at those, I remember those moments vividly because I know like those moments really made an impact on me, right? So, but then it's like when you know that this is happening to you, now you have to create new beliefs. And I think it's number one, you identify those limiting beliefs, right? Depending on where, so I was telling you in school, teachers are telling me you're not good enough, my parents. And so, but then once you identify this, now you have to break this limiting belief, right? So then you have to do things that are going to scare you. So when I started my business, I knew it was scary. I knew that I was going to fail, but as you go on to the journey, you never actually learn if you don't actually do it, right? So when I started jumping into the business, I failed so many times. So like even to the point where my third month into the business, I had got robbed where I lost like $50,000.
Wow.
Like there's so many things that you got to go through in life that you won't really know until you actually start moving. And so I believe success is a series of action that you do every single day, because I don't think success is really an achievement. It's more of like the process to getting there. Yeah, so it's like a journey, right? And so for someone who wants to break their limiting belief is really just look back at where you were to see where you're going to go forward. But if you're never going to look back at your past to see, okay, these things are actually holding me back, so you have to reflect. So reflection is a very, very important thing, and really just being able to kind of see it and look at where you want to go today, where you are today, and where you want to go next. So I think really have a vision, right? Have goals written down, because at the end of the day, if you don't have things written down, if you can't really see them vividly every single day you wake up, then it's going to be very hard to be able to go to that next stage in your life. And sometimes those limiting beliefs could be a small thing. Let's say you want to get on camera and talk to people, right? You want to do
Yeah,
content.
yeah, and I want
Yeah.
us to talk about that too.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But it's very easy to say that now.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
what about a 15, 16-year-old child? Well, not a child, but
Yeah, yeah,
a teenager.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so you have
It's not that easy for someone at this age to have this thought.
exactly. Yeah. No, absolutely. So even if you look, like a lot of us are programmed subconsciously. So I watch a lot. I don't know if you know. I heard of Dr. Bruce Lipton. He talks a lot about it. Like subconsciously, a lot of us are programmed. So by the time you're like 7 years old until you're about like I think 14 or 15, you get programmed by this chip on your head. It's like in the subconscious mind is a little chip, right? So these programmings really are like the things that you go through. So for example, you know, your parents, how did your upbringing was with your parents? For me, I was telling you, I was a single parent mom, right? So depending on what kind of parents you had, maybe your parents were fighting, maybe your parents were together, right? So there's so many things that you kind of go through, right? Especially I was telling you in school, right? They were telling me I was not gonna, well, I was gonna fail, I was not gonna graduate. So by being able to study those patterns to see where you were, you can really determine what's gonna come next. So I think a lot of us don't really, like I said, they don't really take the time to reflect. So, but as you get older though, that's when you can really see it, because when you're younger, you don't really know, because I feel like when you're younger, you're just moving at a 100-mile pace, right? Because I remember throughout my whole high school career, I was like, man, time really went by so fast because you're having so much fun. But as you get older, time really starts to pause. You could take a little pause, right? But it's important to really look at where you are to see where you're going to go next. Because if you don't really take the time to reflect and see, okay, this is where I am, where do I want to go in the next 5 years? A lot of us, we tend to typically go with the usual norm, which is like, okay, my friend is going to become a finance. He's becoming he wants to become a doctor, so I'm going to go follow my friend because he is doing that. So now you follow somebody else, but you never follow your intuition or your heart, right? So that's kind of the biggest thing that I realized. And sometimes that takes a little bit long. There's people who are in business for 5, 10 years who don't become successful, right? Because they're still trying to figure out the market. And it's the same thing with the education system. You might go to school for so many years, but you're maybe working a job, you're paying the tuition fee. So I think in entrepreneurship, it's actually the same thing. For me, when I decided to go into my business, I paid a tuition, which is I wanted to invest into me. So I started hiring mentors. I started paying for coaching, right? So I said, if I'm going to invest $50,000 into dropping out of school, I'm going to take this money and put it into, at the time I was doing stocks, I was doing investments. I said, I'm going to take this money and this is going to be my tuition. So I lost like $50,000 in the market. Then I lost another $50,000 in my cell phone business. I said, okay, maybe this is a good thing because now that could be my tuition, right? Most people are taking that money, they're putting it into education, but they're not really learning anything. So at the end of the day, it comes down to the skill sets that you learn, right? And the person you become. I think those are the things that I realized, because the money is a byproduct, right? Either you're going to invest it or either it's just someone's going to take it. And as the way the system is designed, someone is always controlling us, right? You see it all the time when people go get into these big educations, and it's like they pay this massive loan, and then it's like now they have no idea where to go, right?
Yeah.
Because they're so accustomed to, like, they want the guarantee.
Yeah.
And I realized there's no guarantee in life until you're willing to put your money down or you put your time down to invest into yourself, into your education, to your skill set. So I think for me, that's when I realized the gains has really come. And sometimes you don't really make money. For example, people look at me today and they look at the cell phone business or they look at the real estate. Like the first 2 years, I was not making no money, right? Of course, like we have products, money is coming in, I got to pay my bills, but I want to do this because I don't want to go back to working a job, even if
I feel inspired with that because I'm not selling enough
Yeah.
to pay my bills with my business.
No,
I will keep going.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, the market is tough. You know, it's like people want to make money, but it's like, I know social media it's so easy to look at everybody is making profit, but it's like, literally, that's what it. What's it? But then there's gonna be the 1 month where you're gonna wake up, you're gonna make $20,000, right? Because you're able to stay patient. So I think, especially nowadays, people tell you, like, I've tried any kind of business. I've tried Shopify, FBA. I've tried stock market. I've done reselling shoes. I've done real estate wholesale. I've tried so many different things that I can name of. A lot of them failed though, right? A lot of those businesses failed, right? So if you're not
People don't see that.
Yeah. So most people are not willing to do one business to try another business. It's like they're just sitting on the sideline. They're waiting. Like, how is Hanny having success now? But it's like, bro, you didn't see me 6 years ago when I was losing so much money doing Shopify. You know, so it's like all the savings is gone. Like, so now you have to rebuild yourself back up. Like, why are you still doing this? But for me, at the end of the day, I know that as long as I have the skill set now because I think people don't know is you don't actually start from zero, right? So if I've been doing this for 5 years, now I have the skill set. The skill set you can't take away from me, right? The money is a byproduct. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't have the skills and all you do is, oh, I want to put money in and get an investment tomorrow. No, it's the skills. Skills go with you forever, right? Even though I was losing money here, I still have the skills of marketing, sales,
The
negotiating,
experience.
the experience.
What to
Exactly.
do, what not to do.
Yes, yes. So that's kind of my biggest thing. That's why I think anybody who's watching 100% should try any kind of business. But don't expect an instant gratification or instant reward.
Yeah.
Just know it's going to take a little bit longer. And I think failure is part of the process. I don't think you fail. I think you're more of it's lessons. You learn lessons, and you just try to not repeat those lessons again.
Yeah. And I think there's no right and wrong. It depends on going to school, 4 year program, or going on your own. Just follow your heart. And
Absolutely.
I want to talk a little bit about the content creation because I love your videos, your energy. I can feel the energy just looking at your videos. But me as a content creator, I face sometimes those comments. People, why are you doing that? Or those comments that sometimes can stop you if you just listen to them. But have you experienced that? And what do you think about it?
100%. So I think with content creation, when you're first starting, you're trying to find your voice. I think that's the first piece.
Sorry. When did you start it?
So I got into content creation 2024ish. So it's been about 3 years now. And the first time I got into it, I was trying to figure out like what do I actually want to talk about, right? And so I discovered this guy named Russell Brunson. I don't know if you know Russell Brunson.
No.
ClickFunnels. So Russell talks a lot about nobody starts off as an expert, right? So to become an expert, right, you actually have to have achievements. But oftentimes in the beginning, you're going through a problem. So remember 2024, I had already lost so much money in the market, right? I had done so many things. So I said, how do I teach someone to not go through similar problems? So I started making educational content around the stock market originally. So I was teaching people how do you invest, how do you buy, stocks, right? So as I started to do this more and more and more, I started working on the skills of putting myself out there, right? So number one is you have to find a voice. Depending on what kind of voice you want to find, let's say, for example, you want to become a consultant and you want to help people essentially make more money in their business, or you want to become a life coach, right? Depending on what it is. So, but first you have to solve that problem for yourself. So for me, as I went on at 2024, like I was telling you, I was doing stocks, I was doing investments, I was losing a lot of money. But then once I transitioned into finding out something that I actually wanted to do, so my cell phone business, like I was saying, I started that business with $365, right? I said, okay, how can I teach someone else to do the same thing? So I actually started that business in 2023. So I started doing content in 2023. Yeah. So essentially, I realized I was making a little bit of money in this business. I said, how can I teach someone else to make a little bit of money as well too? So I started that business with $365. I said, I'm going to document this journey of me either meeting customers, me either actually making sales. So in the beginning, you're losing money, you're making money. But then as I found out how to actually make money, as my business started to grow a little bit, I said, okay, now I can start teaching people because I found out something that in the market that most people didn't know. But ultimately, it's about people, right? I realized that every time I went out there to meet people, they actually wanted to get to know me more, right? And then it's vice versa. But you solve a problem in the marketplace, you get good at doing that thing, right? And then once you find that voice, and then you can start teaching people. Because I think a lot of time people want to do content, but they feel like they don't have anything to share because they haven't really solved the problem, right? Because at the end of the day, the money is a byproduct. If you solve a problem, the money will come, right? And I think Russell, the same thing. He talks about there's frameworks you could use when it comes to shooting content. For me, I realized that I wasn't good at talking to people, so I said, how do I do this? So I put up my phone every single day and I would just talk to it. So the framework goes hook, story, offer. So the hook is really to grab someone's attention. Like, when I always talk about this idea of me losing $50,000 when I got robbed. So automatically that's gonna grab you to watch the content. So I tell people like my story of when I got robbed, like essentially how I got set up by a friend. And then the offer essentially is like the call to action. What do I want to leave this person with, right? So hook, story, offer. That's what I use a lot for my content, and I learned a lot of this stuff from Russell. But essentially, find your voice. Whether that could be you want to be a consultant, you want to be a person to help people. For me, I had a little bit of success in my phone business. I wanted to teach people who are like, you know what I mean, who wanted to get started in their business and see how I can help them. And a lot of people as well too. As you start to put your content out there, you're gonna find your ideal client profile. People call it ICP. For me, it was a lot of young people. So people that were watching my content, my YouTube stuff.
How was it at the beginning?
Oh, people were like, "What's going on? You know, how is this guy doing it, right?" But I think the biggest thing is I realize now people who support you are strangers. They're not actually your friends, right? They're not actually people who are close to you. So I found out as I started putting more content out there, people started reaching out to me from Calgary, Edmonton, Alberta, even the USA, surprisingly. So because I started going, like I started producing content, I started also doing school as well too. I went on school, shout out Alex Ramosi. So started having modules teaching people how to do it. So as I started having people on these calls, I'm like, where are you from? Edmonton. Where are you from? Calgary. So I realized nobody was from Winnipeg that wanted to learn how to do this. But they don't even know is that this business works, right? Because if I'm having a little bit of success, and at that time I'm always about transparent, showing people actually how I actually been able to make money and essentially exactly the concepts that I've been able to use in my business. But yeah, strangers are not gonna support you. I mean, your friends are not gonna support you. Strangers will support you. So that's one of the biggest things that I realized is because you've probably done so much content where people reach out to you from different parts of the world. It's like,
Yeah.
Josh, I want to connect with you, right? Because the thing that I realized, the reason why your friends and family are not gonna support you compared to strangers is because your friends and family saw you 10 years ago. So earlier I was talking about your patterns. So someone knows me from 10 years ago. He said, "Oh, I know you were that." Like I had someone reach out to me a while ago. He's like, I know you from 5 years ago. You were that kid at we used to play at the YMCA. Like, don't come, like, because he reached out to me and I didn't want to get back to him. So he felt some type of way. He's like, I remember when you were a kid. So he kind of was like, he got angry. He's like, don't try to like get on this business stuff with me. I'm like, bro, that's not 5 years ago. Is not the same me as I am today.
I'm a different person.
I'm a different person. So people who are close to you, they feel like they know you, but strangers don't really know you, right? They're watching they're seeing the value, right? So it's important to understand that when you're producing content, right, to not focus on those people who know you, but instead people who don't know you just yet, right? Because those people are gonna find more value, right? And people who support you are 100% gonna be strangers because they see that this is who you are, this is the value you offer. People who know you, they feel like, oh, I know this guy from 5 years ago. Like he probably hasn't changed, but because they feel like this is. But it's like as human beings, we're always gonna grow. Evolution is gonna happen. So, but then you realize
Sometimes.
yeah, but when you realize too, those same people, the reason why they're saying that to you is because they haven't grown. So they're probably
That's why I say
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah.
Because
yeah,
we grow, but those people who are
they're-
in the same
yes.
stage, in the same,
they're doing the same thing. They're stuck doing the same thing. But there's nothing wrong with working a 9 to 5 job. They're probably still in school. They're probably 9 to 5 job. So they haven't really. I think growth is like it's getting out of your comfort zone, right? Like a comfort zone is doing content, starting that business, failing multiple times, going to the gym, right? Like I probably always say, exhaust the body, tame the mind. So exhausting your body, your mindset, because then you get to really find out who you were. And so people are staying in the same comfort zone that they are like when they were a kid, whatever. As they get older, then it's very hard for me to get to want to know who you are and connect with you, right? So I just realized strangers are just like, yo, this guy is like dropping knowledge, and I find it valuable. I want to. How do I buy his stuff? And I think with going back to the last answer your question, content is always about showing up on the marketplace. We're doing it consistently. So the more you're consistent with your messaging and your wording, people are gonna buy into that. Because at the end of the day, people don't buy products. So I was saying earlier, even though I'm in the cell phone business, people don't care about the iPhone 14, 15, 16. They care about the storytelling aspect to it. So how can you talk a lot about your story, where you grew up from, where you came from? Because that's what they're really buying. The product is just the one thing. The same thing in real estate. You see all the time. People are always showing you these new houses. I love realtors, but you see a brand new house. Oh, this house is going for 500K. I'm just like, swipe. Because the thing is, this house is 500K, that house is 600K. What's the difference? The difference really is the person who's building that personal brand. People get to know who they are, right? The story, maybe you're doing educational content, maybe you're talking about yourself, right? So it's always back to the storytelling aspect, because for me, that's what I look at content. So my layers is more of like, you know what I mean, business, community, right? Fitness, health, wealth, and faith as well too. So I like to mix those different things when I'm educating people, when I'm talking, because I don't want to just talk about just business every single day. I
Yeah.
think that stuff gets boring, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
And you build trust.
exactly, exactly. Yeah. So, but it's a lot of work though. It's not easy.
I know. I'm there.
Right? Yeah. It's not easy. So you gotta be willing to pay a price, and the price comes with a lot of, you know what I mean, doubts, a lot of failures, and a lot of, nobody's really going to support you in the beginning, and a lot of money as well too up front, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah. So that's
totally
kind of how
agree.
I break it down to you.
Your host events. I always wanted to attend your events, but I'm all over the places too. But I had the opportunity to attend your last event, and I loved it. And I would like you to tell us a little bit about it, how it started, and where it's now.
Yeah, yeah, you probably know events are not easy. Yeah, so going back to the story, my first event I actually hosted, it was 2 years ago. I remember exactly where it was as well too. I just Before that though, how I discovered like events and why I wanted to do this, the deep reason behind it. I read this book called Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. And Keith Ferrazzi in that book talks about being a connector and being a person who essentially, if you want to bring value to the marketplace, you have to be a relationship with people. And so I realized, so never eat alone is a concept of like bringing people together and breaking bread, essentially, right? And there's different concepts that you can use. And so essentially, I said, okay, I already have a little bit of knowledge in this business, but as I went on to this journey, I realized that every person that I met in business they didn't want to collaborate. But then as I looked, it's collaboration was how people really grew. So I said, I want to connect with this business owner, that business owner, whether you're in real estate, whether you're a consultant, it doesn't matter what business you're in. As I started connecting with people, I realized there was one common thing. They all wanted to talk about themselves, right? So because they didn't really care about me, they cared about them. And they felt like they have so much knowledge and experience over the last 10, 15 years in their business. And so I'm like, okay, how do I bring them into the community so they can teach these things that they're talking about? Because this is very valuable stuff, right? Because it's easy to sell someone stuff online on social media. So I started connecting with business owners. I said, hey, I want you to come out. I want you to speak. In the beginning, I was doing it a lot because of my passion. And I remember the first event, I had like 3 people who showed up, right? They're like, oh, what's this about? And then we just went around the room and talked about the idea and the concepts. And as I started to do them more and more, I got better over time. And like you said, the last event, I think we had about, I think 70 people or so at the real
Maybe
estate.
more.
Yeah, at the real estate event.
It was busy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but the idea really though is the mission behind the events is I have this mantra called each one teach one. It's actually an African proverb, which is right here. But it's like each one teach one essentially means when you get knowledge and information, right? How do you pass that knowledge down to someone else where you create a ripple effect? Because if I'm an expert, right, at social media marketing, at sales, how can I teach that to someone else? Where essentially, because I think the best way to master something is to teach it. So if I teach you how to become better at sales, I'm going to also learn. You're going to get better as well too. So now we're creating a ripple effect. So essentially, the passion, it was my passion to teach people, but to do it on like a community events and really just give back to the community. Because I remember when I was an inner city kid, growing up in with a single parent mom, not having as much. So I always like to reflect because, like I said, where I am today is not what I mean, who I am. It's there's a lot of things that has me. So it's not just because I woke up one day and I said, oh, I want to do these events just to do it because of, and a lot of times too, I go to these events and I'm always smiling because I love smiling. But the difference really is I want to make change. I want to make a difference in people because I know what it's like to start from nothing, working as a DoorDash driver, working, helping my mom out, right? So how can I help the next entrepreneurs to start their own thing? And I think entrepreneurship, there's so many different layers. So we talk about different topics: real estate, investing. That was the last event. Before that, we done social media marketing, finance, building communities. So there's different kind of topics that we like to talk about, bringing different expertise to the room. But at the end of the day, I think it's with events that I realize people who are coming to events, a lot of them are like entrepreneurs who either are just getting started, people who have been in business for 5 years, 10 years. The way I like to break down my room is like I don't want to make it like limit anybody who to get access. So anybody is welcome to come in. It doesn't matter if you're black, if you're white, if you're Chinese. I believe everybody deserves a seat at the table. It's all about that giving people an opportunity, a chance, because we all bring value to the table. Like I never judge anyone because they work this job or because they're in education. I know because I started as a DoorDash driver, so I know someone can have value, right? But someone has to be able to give you a platform, give you a
Yeah.
chance. So I think that's the biggest thing that people a lack is they're always thinking, oh, what's in it for me? What can I get out of this? But it's like, no, what if it's not nothing for you? What if you could just give back and not expect anything in return? And at the end of the day, sometimes that's the best form that I've realized. That's my best approach. And a lot of these events that I've been able to do, they're free events. People ask me like, so how do you make money? It's like, bro, I'm just doing it because I want to work on, like I was telling Eric, finding my voice. I want to do this more and more and more and more. And eventually one day we might sell out the RBC Convention Center. We never
Yeah.
know, right?
Yeah.
So you start off small, but a lot of people, what they want to do is they want to make money right away. But it's like, no, I want to invest into the community. I want to give back, right? Whether I got to put in $500 to $1,000. And if I got to do that monthly, every single month, and work on my skills, meet people like yourself, that's going to get me so much closer to my goals compared to if I'm just always wondering, oh, like, it's not making me money. It's like, that's a terrible mindset to have. So I think it's about having an abundance mindset. If you have that abundance mindset of giving back to people, supporting entrepreneurs, and being able to reflect to see where you were, I think that's the biggest thing. When most people, especially as you get more success as well too, you realize you meet certain people in the business. Like I met people all over across the industry. People have different characters. So I think character plays a big role as well too. So for me, I'm actually a very nice, I'm kind of like, I'm open-minded kind of person. I like to, if I connect with someone, I like to see where they came from, where they were about, right?
You're
And then
curious.
yeah, I'm curious, and then also too, I'm very welcoming, right? I'm always smiling with people because I want to know essentially where they started, how they got here, right? And then at the same time, it's always about just giving people an opportunity and a chance, right? And I never like to take advantage of people because I know, especially now as I look at the marketplace, being in different industries, I've seen people the way they act and different characters they have. They're always like, oh, what can I get here? What can I do this? It's like I don't want to be that kind of person, especially as you start getting more success in your business. You have to pause and look at, okay, if that person is treating you like that, you don't want to be that person, right? Because maybe let's say, for example, especially as you do more events, people get to know you. You start to hit a certain stage. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
maybe I'm this big. No, it's like remember where you started. As
Be
a doing
humble.
that, be humble, right? So stay humble. So that's the biggest thing I feel like, especially the journey that I'm at right now. It's just knowing where I started and always remembering that this thing could be gone one day, right? So
Yeah.
being able to reflect is the most important thing.
Yeah. Be humble, but don't let people take advantage of you.
Yes, 100%, 100%. That's the biggest one because then, yeah, people will always try to like get something out of you, or they feel like, oh, and I think it's with time you really get to find out because you have to know what you want though. I think at the end of the day, if you don't know what you want, people will tell you what they want from you, right? But if you're really just obsessed about that thing that you want, for me, like I said, I grew up an athlete, so I'm very competitive. I like to win, it's like, and so winning is just when I played sports, I would come to games and there was days where things are not going my way. I was not scoring as much. I was not contributing as much, but I knew I still had to show up. So I think in business it's the same concept. Like either what happens, either if we're not making money today, we just consistently just show up in the marketplace. The more we start doing it, that's really what separates people who are like entrepreneurs, people who just want to get into business. They start, right? It's like the threshold is like you start the first couple of years, you get very excited, but if it's not going as your way, you start going back down. But people who usually get back up are usually the ones that consistently just make small improvements every single day. They're doing the non-negotiables, whether if you're calling your customers, you're building relationships, you're in the community, right? So if you do those non-negotiables, you're guaranteed to see success because success is the more seeds you start planting, just one day they're gonna flourish. So I think that's the key takeaway that I've realized in like just doing this so many years now. How can you stay in the game? I don't think you lose until you quit. So as long as you just keep fighting, right? Like in sports, we just it's a team who essentially has five guys because in basketball it's five people on the court. It's not just one person who wins, right? It comes down to people. So if you have five people together coming together who are working together, one person contributing here, contributing there, then you can really win. But if you think, oh, if it's gonna be by myself, I'm gonna do it all alone. Well, hey, good luck. So
Teamwork
makes the dream work, right? So that's really about what I've been doing a lot on the back end as well too. So I'm really about building systems and building people. So that's kind of my next phase in life. I'd probably say the next couple of years is what I'm really going towards more because at the end of the day, you can't. Your business can only grow as far as you go, right? It's the character, it's the mindset, it's the personal development, it's you, right? So people are following you because of what you're doing. So if I'm sitting here, if I'm telling you, Jocelyn, I've done X, Y, and Z, but if I'm not actually doing the stuff that I'm saying to do, then why should I even get this stage, right? So it's really about action. So if you embody action, right, people will follow you. But if you're just all you do is talk and you're not really
Yeah, it's
walking,
not just words, it's
you know what I
what
mean?
people see.
That's it. You know what I mean? So that's I think action is a receiver. So action is like it's the thing that you do that people know you for, right? So if I say I'm gonna do this event, it's gonna happen on this day, I better act towards that thing happening, that achievement happening. So the process to getting there, as you know, it's very hard to get to that. But when you see that the final result, like you came to the event, like everybody's like, wow, this is very cool. But the work that goes into making it
Oh my
happen,
goodness.
yeah,
I tell myself
yeah.
I'm not organizing more than 2 events. At the end of the year, I'm organizing so many.
That's it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So tell me, Justin. Now I want to ask you a question. What's that process been like for you? Because now you said your biggest event you've hosted was 500 people. How do you even have the capacity to put together a room for 500 people? How many people do you got to get to have a part of that process? Because that's a lot of people to I probably say to prospect to reach out.
You mentioned everything.
Yeah, yeah.
It has been 5 years.
Wow.
And it was not the same. The first one, we had over 160 people. So the second, 300. And the third, 400. So we didn't start with 500 people. So it's everything how you started. You start small and you work for free. You do lots of things. You work alone because at the beginning you don't have a team. You don't have the people around. Sometimes people don't believe in your projects. So that's how it came. I was learning from the first, second, third year.
No, absolutely. I think another thing too is I think especially a lot of like small businesses and entrepreneurs, the biggest thing that they lack is capital, right? I always say like they always lack capital. Like I don't have enough money. How can I start my business? Like, can you direct me? What grants can I get? This and that. Like, I have this framework. It's called the 4 C's of leverage, and I think if we use leverage to gain capital, so I'll break it down to you. So the 4 C's of leverage is the first one is content. So that's the first C, right? Because content nowadays, as we're seeing it, if you get people's attention, let's say if you're starting that business, people get to know who you are. They follow. They will look at someone like Joe Rogan who's been able to make so much money off Spotify and that kind of thing. The second one is so it's content. The second one is code, right? So code meaning automation, AI. Nowadays, everybody's using ChatGPT, right? Depending on what you're doing, like you could literally nowadays build a business using like ChatGPT, right? You can create a standard operating procedure. Literally say, I want to start this business. How can you direct me? Like, what products do I need? The third one is capital, right? So capital meaning you need money because at the end of the day, as a small business owner, let's say for me, for example, like the biggest thing is cash flow. How can we have products coming in? So maybe you're gonna go to the bank, ask, maybe to get a loan or something like that. Maybe ask people to invest into your business. So the fourth one is collaboration. It's people, right? So at the end of the day, you need people, right? I was telling you earlier, in sports, you need 5 people to win, right? It's the same thing in business, right? So I think collaboration is the most important thing out of those 4 C's, because at the end of the day, that also works in the community aspect as well too. Do you have that mindset of willing to work with people? Do you have a growth mindset? Do you have a fixed mindset, right? So if you know which mindset you have, knowing that, okay, I'm gonna get this end result, I'm gonna work with this person. So how I like the framework thing is I think if you just understand those 4 things, content, code, capital, collaboration. So those are the 4 C's of leverage that I like to break things down with, especially when it comes to different, because I think everything comes down to those, because content is massive. You need to learn how to use AI in your business, right? Especially nowadays. And then with capital, you need money to be able to do stuff, right? So even in the event space as well too, sponsorship is the biggest one. Like, when you're first starting, you're trying to get people to buy into your vision, right? So now you're calling people, you say, hey, I have this event. I think I want to get you on. I think I can get you, exposure, right? So there's a lot of that, especially as a young entrepreneur, when you're trying to run your business, you're trying to invest into events. It's not easy. So Jocelyn, for you, how have you been able to get people to come on board to be able to believe into your vision? Because that's something I'm actually struggling with right now, is like getting people to sponsor and come out and actually support our events. How do you do that?
First, with actions, because when I invite someone to collaborate, they see what I have done. And I document, as you mentioned. I've been documenting my journey for 5 years, but it was not that easy at the beginning. So start small and start with what you want. You would like to start with a 100 people event, But if you don't have anything, people won't trust what you're saying.
Yeah.
But start with what you want and trust the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Start small, use what you have, and wait. And you will get it. But the issue is that sometimes people expect big results at the first time. And how many times you have failed?
Yeah.
Many times. And it is okay. Or sometimes you don't fail because you learn. And from this learning experience, you will be building something bigger and bigger and bigger. But nothing comes like in 1 minute, in 1 day.
100%.
Trust, you don't build trust in 1 day.
We've covered different topics. Hopefully you found something valuable in some of the information that we shared here today. So I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I am so excited because when you describe yourself and your journey, I see myself there. I started when I was 15, maybe less, 15 years old. But this is another story. But thank you so much.
I appreciate it. How do you say thank you in your language?
Gracias.
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 Yeah. And then in Spanish, like merci or something. I think that's French. I think. Yeah. This is good.
Merci. Thank you. Gracias. Yeah. To our wonderful audience, this is the Newcomer Network. See you next time and share this video. Bye-bye.